Hey guys, Richard here with another video. I'm going to be doing my first travel video. So if you were like me, when I first traveled internationally for my first time, I had no clue what I was doing. I just figured out everything I could as I went. And there was a bunch of things I wish I would have known prior to booking my first trip. And it took me multiple times going on trips overseas before I got a good checklist of things to do before and during my trip. I'm gonna give you all a list of things that I do every time I plan to travel. Have a good, comfortable travel pillow. And that's a wrap. That's all you need to know. I'm done with this video. On to the next one. Just kidding, but for real, never underestimate a good travel pillow. When I first traveled, I didn't have a good travel pillow. And I just expected that because it was an overseas flight and it was a long trip, that the airline would provide a decent pillow and accommodations. I could not have been absolutely more wrong. The pillow that they give you is about this big and it's about that thick. Until you put your head on it, then it becomes about that thick. And because you're in open seats, unless you're lucky enough to fly business or first class, in economy, you don't have much room. You'll often find yourself, if you're trying to get sleep, putting your neck to the side, and that little bitty pillow just won't cut it. So a good travel pillow that you can clip on to yourself, especially, don't buy one of those really cheap U pillows that you get at the airport or Walmart. Trust me, get a pillow that has a good clip so it won't fall off and you can rest easy and comfortably. I personally like this pillow because it has a zipper on it that you can actually unzip and remove this external case. So whenever you get to your destination or whenever you come home, then you can wash it and then it doesn't get all smelly and sweaty from that long flight. Now this pillow I actually purchased at a store called Muji in Singapore, but I'll put a link in the description to the exact pillow in case you want to try the same one. So number 2 is buying your ticket. That's probably the first logical place that most people would start. I'll go out on a limb and say you probably already have your passport if you're traveling internationally, and if you don't, then what are you doing watching my video? You should just go get a passport. But for real, whenever you're traveling, there's a couple of tips and there's a lot of information out there, but this is what I found that actually is true. Whatever airline you're planning to fly through, usually at the very top of their page, when you're typing in your to and from destination, they'll often have a little link underneath that says plus or minus 3 days. And sometimes to access this, you actually have to submit your to and from destination before it'll pull that option up. Now, the plus and minus 3 days isn't exactly the option you're looking for. The option you want to look for is the plus and minus 5 to 7 days. And what that allows you to do is it pulls up a grid view of 5 to 7 days for what days are the cheapest to depart and what days are the cheapest to return home. And if you have that view, you can really pick and choose. And I mean, honestly, that makes all the difference in the world. Flying 1 day later or a couple of days earlier than what you planned can make the difference of $1,000 or thousands of dollars. No joke, for the exact same seat on the exact same plane, it can make that big of a difference. And there's a lot of rumors and suggestions out there that depending on what day of the week you buy and what day of the week to fly out on and what day of the week to return, then you can save money here or there. But honestly, a lot of that stuff doesn't always hold true. In case you're wondering, the accepted day to purchase your plane ticket is on a Tuesday. However, I found that Sundays seem to be the best day to purchase the actual ticket and to try to fly out on a Wednesday. Now, that's not an all-in-all case basis. I would just go based off of the grid, and that'll give you your best rate options. Also, it's a good idea to try to book your ticket at least 3 weeks or 21 days before you try to fly. And for me, I try to do 3 to 6 months for international travel. Make sure to avoid holidays and summer vacation if you can. I know if you're taking a vacation, especially any type of long flight, then it's a good chance you don't have an option there. But if you do, try to avoid those because the ticket prices are much more expensive. A lot of times the hotels are kind of similar. Don't purchase them on holidays. Purchase them plenty of time before you arrive, and just general stuff like that. I would also recommend, whenever you're purchasing your ticket, to sign up for the reward program. Most major airlines have them, and a lot of times they'll give you some type of bonuses, whether it's reduced ticket prices or some kind of free stuff. I mean, who doesn't want free stuff? And a lot of these programs are just absolutely free. You just put in a little bit of your information. I mean, you're already putting in all this information anyway. So it's just a quick couple of extra clicks, and it could mean the difference between saving you $50 to $90 to $100 or more on your next trip. Another way to save a little bit of money when purchasing the ticket is you can actually call the airline company. So a lot of the times, and this is after you've already booked your ticket, a lot of the times you can call the airline company and they'll either give you a free discount of maybe $10 or $20 or some type of free upgrade. Just be nice and courteous, and it doesn't always work, but the worst they can say is no. The next one is after you've already purchased your ticket, you usually have an option to either pick an in-flight meal and or your seat. And I would recommend picking the in-flight meal for a couple of different reasons. So if you're going on a long trip overseas, then you may not necessarily like what menu they're serving. So oftentimes they'll give you a list of different foods like seafood, vegetarian, gluten-free, any kind of health or allergy restrictions you might have. You can take care of all of that a lot of times well beforehand. And on top of that, even if you don't, I would still recommend this because all the flights I've ever been on and picked it, they usually serve your meal about 15 to 25 minutes before they serve everybody else's. And this is beneficial for a couple of reasons. One, you can probably finish eating before everybody else does. And if you're done with everything, you can beat the lines to the bathroom. And two, you don't have to worry about them running out of a meal on the menu that you were really looking forward to. It's happened before several times. The other thing is whenever you're picking your seat, I would recommend picking the middle row of seats. On international flights, you usually have 3 sets of 3 rows of seats. So it'll have 3 seats next to the window, and then you'll have an aisle, and then 3 seats in the middle, and then you'll have another aisle, and then you'll have 3 seats next to the other side of the plane. And my recommendation is to pick one of the 2 outside seats in the middle row. And there's a really good reason for this. So why I specifically say the middle section and not the outside seats of either 2 sides is because in the middle row, if you have all 3 seats filled with passengers, it's a good possibility that 2 of the passengers are probably flying together, and they're probably not going to disturb you, and they'll probably go out on the same side as their spouse. Obviously, you get the benefit of being able to be free to go and use the bathroom at your leisure, and you don't have to worry about disturbing somebody if they're asleep or getting them to get up or all of that hassle. You also have the benefit of not having to worry about someone else waiting for you or waking you up to go to the bathroom. And trust me, the window seats are way overrated. The first time I flew, I got a window seat and it was cool for about the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then I got really old really fast and I regretted it. So the next one is something you might actually want to do before booking your plane tickets, and that's because if you happen to be transiting through another country, it's really important to know everything you can about the country that you might be traveling through. And also, it's very important, even more so, to know everything you can about your destination. So let me tell you a story to illustrate what I'm talking about. So on my first trip, I transited through Moscow. And yeah, I know as a first trip, that's probably not the best option, but it was absolutely the cheapest flight by almost $1,000. Being that I didn't have a lot of money at the time, that was the option I chose. So the big thing that happened to me on this trip wasn't until I actually was on my return flight home and I was sitting on the plane next to a local, and we just were chatting about what we were doing on our vacations, where we were, and turned out she happened to be from Russia. And just in casual conversation, she asked me, well, why did you pick Moscow to fly through? Weren't you scared after hearing about the pipe bombing? And my look on my face, I can only imagine, because I said, well, what pipe bombing? And she said, oh, you didn't hear there was a pipe bombing about 3 months ago in the airport. They caught a guy that was trying to set off a bomb in the airport. Obviously, I did not do my research here. So it's imperative that you do research not just on your destination country, but any transiting countries. Obviously, I had an okay idea what to expect going through Russia and Moscow. I mean, in the news nowadays, most people do. But specifically that airport, I was not aware there was a recent incident where someone tried to bring a bomb in. So that's probably the biggest reason why it's so crucial to do thorough research on every airport, every destination that you're planning on going. The other thing is research your dollar conversion. I think this should be pretty obvious. Whenever you're going to another country, your money is going to be valued very differently than what you're used to. So it's important to look up a conversion. There's some great apps that do automatic live real-time conversions, and they stay active and up to date on currency conversions. And it's just a really good idea to research and a good tool to have on hand. Another thing you should be doing research on is transportation. So if you're going into a country that has really good public transportation like Singapore, then it's a good idea to research and invest in how that works. And in Singapore's case, they have a little card called an EZ-Link card, and you can go and purchase one of these at any of the main booths on the train stations, and they usually have some preloaded value, and you use it for buses, the train, some vending machines can even use it. And it's just such an easy way and great mode of transport, and it saves you so much money instead of having to waste money on taxis or some shady service that might drive you from point A to point B and charge you some outrageous fee. So it's just a good idea to be well aware of what kind of travel situation that you're going to be looking at once you arrive. So the next one's a quick one, but it's actually pretty important, and it's something that I personally haven't done, but it's something that my family does on a regular basis, is a TSA pre-check. So if you really hate waiting in line and doing all the check at TSA when you're going on a flight, doing a TSA pre-check saves you actually a decent amount of time. So what you do is they have a link on their website where you go out and fill out this form, you schedule a date, you go in, you do fingerprint scanners, they do a background check on you, and you can do it for yourself and your significant other. And basically it just allows you to skip part of the line and hassle. It allows you to get through the check a lot quicker. So the next one's another one that it took me a while to figure out that this was the best way to communicate while overseas. And that's, don't waste your time and money getting some extended travel plan through your current cell phone provider. I mean, those things are crazy expensive, they rip you off, and you don't get very much data or minutes out of it, and if you use any at all, it charges you some outrageous fee. Just avoid all of that and just get a prepaid SIM card in your destination. And so how you do this is, if you have AT&T or Verizon, or if you purchase your cell phone through the actual maker of it like Apple or Samsung, then a lot of times you'll be able to insert a SIM card. Now some companies, if you buy their phone, they don't give you that option, and the only way around this is to just buy a new phone, unfortunately. But you can get some pretty inexpensive phones that have SIM cards in them, so I would still recommend doing that. And the other part of this is, before you leave, I would recommend trying to check with your cell phone provider to see if your phone is locked. A lot of companies like AT&T will lock your phone using something called an IMEI, and it's just this long number under your settings that they keep you from being able to use another SIM card from another country. And I don't know why they do this here. They don't do it anywhere else that I've experienced, but it's really easy to get them to, so you can either go on a website, they often have, or call them and you just provide them that IMEI. They'll probably direct you on how to actually find it. And a lot of the times it just takes about a day or two for them to actually process it and release it. And once it's released, then you'll be able to get a prepaid SIM card at your destination once you've landed and everything at your actual destination country, and use that, and you can use it just like local. You don't have some outrageous plan to worry about, and it's just prepaid, so you just put whatever you need on it if you're just going to be there for a small amount of time, and you can get both data, a phone number, or just data, and use some other kinds of apps to communicate. I mean, it's so much easier and so much cheaper than trying to get some extended travel plan through whatever provider you might have. Now, I would say a quick tip here is, if possible, whenever you get to your destination country, a lot of the nicer airports will probably have little kiosks set up for you to do this. And if you don't have any other option, or if you're not familiar where else you could possibly get one of these, then you can go ahead and get it there. But if possible, I would avoid getting them at the airport, because a lot of times the rates are jacked up. And that brings me to the next one, which is something you should also avoid doing when you touch down at your destination's airport, is get your money changed. So like I said, again, if you have no idea where to go and you don't have any contacts locally and you just don't have any other options, then I understand, do what you have to. But absolutely, you will get ripped off if you change your money at the airport. Their rates are so terrible almost everywhere you go. I mean, the idea is avoid any really heavy touristy place, because the rates of those money changers are going to be expecting a lot of tourists to come through there, and their rates are going to be a lot higher than if you go somewhere off the beaten path. So the best way to find out this information is to go look up on a local forum, or if you have a local contact or you know some locals, then just go talk to them and ask what the best place to change money is. So the next one's another really quick one, and it's just be prepared whenever you're going on your flight. I would recommend either downloading some courses or videos onto your phone or tablet, downloading a book, bringing a book. Just bring some extra material. I mean, there's a lot of in-flight movies and sometimes video games on the nicer overseas flights, but you'll probably find yourself running out of material really fast. For me, the flight from here to Singapore, both legs just in the air alone, is about 20 hours. So you can imagine running out of in-flight videos and movies to watch pretty quickly. And because you might be bringing your tablet and cell phone to view and watch other material you might want to bring along, then it's imperative that you bring along a charger cable, a charger cord, and your own pair of headphones. And your headphones will probably come in handy even if you aren't using your own phone or tablet, because the in-flight headphones that they provide you are really poor quality. I mean, they're cheap, they're the throwaway ones. So it's a really good idea, and a lot of times they'll just have a little insert piece with the cheap headphones, and you just take out that little insert piece and plug your headphones into that, and now you have way better quality sound. And if you are utilizing your own phone or tablet to do a program, watch videos, read a digital book, then you want to make sure not only is your device is charged, but you bring a charger cable. A lot of times they have an in-flight plug-in USB to charge your phone, but I will say it does charge pretty slow. So I would also recommend bringing a handheld charger so you can charge your phone a lot faster. And why this is also important is because you not just want your phone to last throughout your flight, but whenever you touch down or in between your destinations in transit, you want to make sure you have your phone available and powered on, because you never know when you might next be able to charge your phone, and you never know what kind of emergency might pop up. So while you're packing and preparing for your flight, there's a few items that I would make sure you have on your person that you have available to you on the flight. So in addition to the headphones and charger, one of those is a good pair of comfortable, easy to slip on and off shoes. And the ones I wear are a pair of Skechers. There's no lace up or anything. They really are lightweight, easy to slip on and off. And I'll give a link in the description below if you're curious. But make sure you just have a good, easy to slip on and off pair of shoes. And why I say that, for a couple of reasons, is one, you'll find yourself wanting to take off your shoes at various times during the flight, whether your feet's getting hot or you just want to try to get as comfortable as you possibly could on your chair. And the other reason you should have a good, easy to wear pair of shoes is you don't want to have some reason why it's difficult for you to put on your shoes when you do have to use the bathroom. I mean, trust me, I promise you, you absolutely want to put on your shoes while using the bathroom. And some people might say, well, yeah, duh, but I can't tell you the number of people that just wear either in-flight socks or whatever socks, or even barefoot, and walk into the bathrooms in the airplane. I mean, oftentimes there's people standing up and using the bathroom, and just the floor is covered in pee, and it's just so gross and nasty. I would absolutely never do that. So absolutely make sure you have an easy to wear pair of shoes. Another reason that easy slip on and off shoes come in handy are through pre-flight and transit check-ins. So if you do have to go through any type of customs or TSA, and a lot of times, at least especially in America, you have to take off your shoes. So it's a lot easier and quicker if you can just slip them off, slip them back on, and you can go about your merry way. It just speeds up your time, and it's less hassle for you. Another couple of things that you make sure you pack with your carry-on luggage is a jacket and a decent blanket. I mean, don't underestimate how powerful a decent jacket and a decent blanket could really improve your flight experience. And yeah, a lot of flights will give you some type of blanket and, like I said before, like the small pillow. But the blanket's about the same quality as the pillow, so not so great. When you first sit down in your seat, you might think, oh, it's pretty warm, I'm definitely not gonna need these. But trust me, once you get to altitude, it gets really cold. And if you're not moving around a lot, you're sitting in a seat most of the time, you're not moving your body, so you're not generating a lot of heat, you will be freezing cold. I would absolutely bring some type of easy to slip on and off jacket and a nice blanket to keep yourself warm during your flight. And after you finish packing your bags, there's a quick little hack that you can do to really just find your bag a little bit quicker whenever you're going to pick it up off the luggage. And it's something that my aunt started doing a while back, and my parents have been doing it ever since. And it's just tie something colorful that contrasts to your luggage. So like if your luggage is black, what my parents do and what I do is just get a red bandana or some brightly colored bandana and just tie it around the handle, and it'll just make your bag stand out a little bit. I mean, there's so many bags out there. There's so many times when I'm traveling and I see someone that has the exact same bag as me. I mean, color and everything. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had that red bandana tied on it, then I might have guessed wrong and got someone else's bag. And it probably would have taken me a minute to realize, hey, this isn't my bag. So just if you want to make your experience after you get off the plane, I mean, you probably have a headache, you're tired. You just want as little difficulty as possible. And this just really helps that out. And another thing they have are like these little globe tags, and they have a spot where you can write your name, address, phone number on the back in case your bag goes missing. And if possible, I would do both, but at least the bandana can help your bag contrast. And a lot of times you can just find those little free tags to write all your information on to put on your bag at the actual airport. The next one's a pretty big one, and this has to do with jet lag. So don't go under the assumption whenever you're flying that you're gonna have nothing to do but sleep. And my first time I did this, and I did not sleep the whole day or night before, and I just told myself, well, there's plenty of time. It's a 20-hour flight. I'll have plenty of time to sleep on the plane. If you feel that way, then you're probably gonna be in for a big surprise. I would say a big misconception about jet lag is just the time differences. Yeah, of course, that's a really huge part of it, obviously. But for me anyway, the biggest reason that I find myself getting jet lag is because it's so difficult to sleep. I mean, unless you're in business class or first class, in which case you're really lucky and good for you. But for most of us that are flying in economy, even if it's quiet, I mean, you're in this tiny little seat most of the time, you're still not gonna be that comfortable. The seats only lean back so far, you're probably not gonna get very much sleep. So my recommendation is make sure you get a full night of sleep and fully rested before your flight. So another thing you can do is find out what the local time will be at your destination when the plane actually touches down, and you can take a melatonin long enough beforehand to try to get a little bit of rest, so whenever you do touch down, you at least had a little bit of rest on the plane. So for instance, if the normal time you would wake up at home is 7 a.m. and your plane also happens to be touching down at 7 a.m., then about 7 to 8 hours before your plane is scheduled to touch down, then take a melatonin and try to get about 7 or 8 hours of sleep, or as best as you can in that situation. So at least when you do touch down, you're not super groggy and drained, and at least you have a little bit of energy. And if you are arriving at your destination during the day, then try to stay active and go out, get food. I understand going back to the hotel room and showering and changing. Believe me, if you're on a really long flight, absolutely, that's probably one of the first things on your mind other than food, water, and sleep. But my recommendation is if you are touching down in the day, after you go and change and take your shower, don't stay in your hotel room. Go out and about, go find food, go mingle, go do something to keep yourself active, sightsee, whatever it may be, until it's about the normal time that you would go to sleep back home. And if you can hold that off as long as you can, and only go back to the hotel when you just absolutely can't focus anymore and you're just too tired to do anything, then you won't oversleep the entire day and then wake up at night. So finally, it's the day of your trip, you're well rested, you got everything packed, you're all ready to go. The next thing on this list that I would try to avoid doing is eating or drinking a whole bunch before your flight. And why I say this is most long flights will give you plenty of food and water while you're actually in the air, and before you leave, if you fill up on a bunch of food and water, or if you go and eat or drink a bunch at the restaurant before going on a really long flight, then probably by the time you get boarded and seated in your airplane, you're probably going to find yourself having to use the bathroom. And guess what? So does everybody else. So good luck fighting a dozen or more people over who gets to use the bathroom before the plane takes off. I will say, after you're already in the air, then do drink a bunch of water and stay incredibly hydrated, because you will be dehydrated when you're 30,000 foot in the air. I would recommend avoiding the in-flight alcohol, even if it's free, just because it's going to dehydrate you even more. And it's also a good idea to avoid coffee and tea or any kind of hot water beverage. I mean, there's plenty of research that you can go and look up that shows that that water may not be the safest. Another piece of advice I would probably say, and this kind of goes back to when you're picking your meal, is don't eat a lot of heavy food. I mean, I don't know about all the different air companies, but with the ones that I've flown, they actually kind of overfeed you. And if you picked a really heavy meal, or if you eat a really heavy meal, then that's going to be sitting on your stomach. I mean, you're sitting in a seat for a long period of time. You're not getting up and moving that much, and you're going to have really bad indigestion either during or after your flight. So my recommendation is just to try to eat as light as you possibly can. Try to stick to things like fruits and vegetables. Really light meats like fish and seafood, and that'll really help you out once you land. And the final tip that'll really help you out when you're getting ready to travel is to smash that like button. I mean, come on, it's free, but for real, is to focus on having fun and enjoying your time abroad. And if you're going there for business, you're probably already going to have other things to worry about. So it's really important that you take some of these things into consideration, just so you can focus on whatever your reason for traveling. So these were a list of things that I find myself doing on a regular basis now, that a lot of these I wish I would have known before flying my very first time, and I hope some of these will help you out before your next flight. And if you've made it this far and you haven't already, then smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for more videos like this. And in the comment section down below, let me know what your favorite travel tip was.